Welcome to Relics Radio, your favorite weekly podcast dedicated to the metal detecting and treasure hunting community. Here are your hosts, Ken from Adventuresindirt and Tony from 5280 Adventures.
Hey everyone, DK here from Adventuresindirt. Welcome to a Wednesday night. Boy, I'm not going to say Thursday ever again. I probably will. But welcome to another Relics Radio. Good to see everyone rolling in the chat. And if it's your first time here, howdy, good to see you. Make sure you check out the audio portion over on Spreaker.com of Relics Radio. And for those of you that are listening over there, come on over and check out the video sometime. We'd love to see you here. Introducing my co-host, you guys know him as... He's been known as Chicken Man, Mr.
What
Tony,
up?
Tony, and Mr. 5280 Adventures.
Happy Wednesday again, trying to get that right. We were on Thursday for how many years?
Forever.
Well, the show was on for 7 seasons on Thursday night. And we're moving it to Wednesday, but you know what? We're making a home here.
Yep, we're doing well.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. You and I have been talking this week.
You've been busy.
Yeah, I got 2 out-of-state projects starting early next week, on Monday, as a matter of fact. And
I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, there's so much to get ready for that, to be prepared for taking people out of state. This week is just, all the last minute things that come up. You've been planning it for months and months and months, and now it's finally coming to it. It's like, oh man, I forgot this, I forgot that. Oh, I got to think about this and that. Man, crazy, busy.
Yeah. Good.
How about you?
Keep you honest.
I see you got a new studio there.
Yeah, I'm in a new studio temporarily. Hopefully, a grand one coming soon. We're doing renovations on the house, and I'm in, believe it or not, it doesn't look like, I don't want to turn the camera around. I'm in the laundry room right now. And that's where my studio is going to live for a couple months maybe. But, yeah, whole new setup here. I'm glad everything plugged in correctly and works. You can hear me, you can see me, right? That's all that matters.
That's right. Have you ever watched any of Daniel Patel's videos?
Yes, he's in a closet.
And it's amazing looking.
Isn't that awesome?
Got guitars hanging all over the place.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Just amazing. You never know what's going on in the other, 75% of the room that's going on. You can only see a little bit. So
if I turn my camera this way or that way, it changed.
Not
everything.
Good.
I had somebody come over here one time and they go, "Let me see your studio." They came down and like, this is not what I expected.
We're hoping to sell the house and then move into a new house and everything. And I've got big plans for a big studio. So multi-dimensional and different camera sides and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be pretty awesome if we can make it happen.
You got a cool looking book sitting over there back in that corner.
And you like that? You like that? That's going to come up here pretty soon.
Yeah.
John Collins Black. There's treasure inside.
That's a treasure hunt book right there.
Yeah, that's going to be in the next couple of weeks here. Maybe something coming on with that. So
yeah,
everybody stay tuned.
That's right.
Yeah.
We always tease them.
That's right.
Weather's nice this week. We always talk about the weather. I couldn't believe it. We just had tons of snow.
It's been insane.
And freezing cold weather. This week's all been in the 60s, almost 70 degrees.
Yeah, we're almost dry. I think the permafrost line is still frozen, so it's not really absorbing all of the moisture that we've gotten.
Yeah.
But the initial top of it's pretty dry, and you could do some digging in some right spots. So
when the weather gets nice like that, I'm itching. I know the news has said don't get used to it, but
right. Yeah, well,
it's hard
I was telling a buddy at work, I said, it's nice enough for us to get that 18 inches of March snow that we're so good for every single year.
Yeah, March we get hammered in March usually. And it's that wet. It's that heavy wet snow that my snowblower does not like to clean.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll get out soon. Let's get over to the chat.
Okay, yeah. Lots of people rolling in. Want to welcome everybody.
First one in tonight, Dirty South Digger.
Hey, man, what's up, Dirty South?
Amen. Yeah. Mr. Bill Hayes.
Hey, did you get a text from him today?
I certainly did.
Wow, he found some cool stuff, man.
I know.
Congratulations.
It's over on Facebook there.
Yep.
I have to chat with him after the show, maybe, about what he was doing and finding.
Yep. That's some good stuff.
Metal Detecting NC. Hi there, everyone.
Mike, how are you? Good to see you.
We got the ski searcher in the house.
Hey, Matt. Good to see you.
Matt? Detect SD.
Have you seen some of his posts lately? He has found numerous pieces of like newspaper plates. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, printing plates.
He almost got the whole page. Oh, you could probably
awesome.
put that back to work and print a page for us.
That's right.
Those are cool to find, man.
Yes, very, very cool. Then Blue Diggers, Nick joining us tonight.
Hello, Nick. Good to see you.
We'll go a couple more here.
Yeah.
Robert Thompson, howdy from Nebraska.
Hello, Robert Thompson. Good to see you.
We got that ill digger guy.
Tim, how are you? Clad Warrior. Check this out. Clad Warrior. I like it.
Nice. Clad Warrior. That's good. I like that name.
Yeah. Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
That's right. That's right. Let's, you know what, before we get
it's Clad.
right. Before we get to our guest, let's talk about Rush to the Rockies real quick.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Rush to the Rockies is May 30th, 31st, and June 1st. That's a 3-day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's happening this year in Kiowa, Colorado. Boy, if you've ever been to a Rush to the Rockies, you know how it goes. Very well organized, very well put on. We have got a lot of things going on. We've got, man, we are close to making some announcements that I just can't make yet, but man, I sure hope like maybe by next maybe 2 shows, I'll be making some cool announcements on that show. But if you want to come on out, see Tony and I come out in beautiful Colorado, you know, it's a seeded hunt. We put all the money, even more than all the money into the ground. Everyone says, well, how can you say that, Ken? Well, we have club funds that we put together to help run the hunt. And we're always buying extra stuff and putting it into the ground. So it's a lot of fun. But beyond that, we have all kinds of Tony and I are both on the committee. And we are just every week or two, we're having meetings and our agenda is like this big. And we just go over every single thing.
2-hour meetings.
Yeah, it's excellent.
It's good stuff. It's gonna be good this year. Different location, but definitely a nice change. We're gonna be a little bit flatter ground, but still high elevation. Beautiful view of Pikes Peak where we're gonna be at. Lots of really cool hunts, lots of silver, lots of good prizes, lots of good sponsors, and that's what we'll be announcing here pretty soon too.
Yeah, we have some homemade stuff that's really cool, some homemade artifacts that are made out of silver, and we've got a lot of silver in every hunt, but a lot of the hunts have themes to them, so there's extra stuff for themes. Lots of prizes for token winners. If you've never been to a seeded hunt before, we plant tokens along with the silver and other items that we're sort of burying, and you find a token, you get a prize. And boy, we got kids hunt on Sunday. We got free kids hunt, which is always really cool to see. I think last time we had a hunt, right? Like a 2-year-old won a metal detector or something.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Detector. It was awesome.
It was great. Great event.
Yeah.
Yep. Make sure you I threw the links in the chat there. They'll also be in the show notes, the description, and all that kind of stuff. So check out the website. Come on out and join us. We'll be here May 30th to June 1st. So
what are we calling it this year?
Rockies. This one's called Rendezvous 2025.
That's right. Rush to the Rockies Rendezvous 2025. So
awesome.
Come on out and rendezvous with us.
That's right.
You don't have any of those stickers within reach, do you? No.
Yeah, I've got some clean laundry I need to fold right over there.
Oh, let's bring our guest in, man.
All right. Well, I want to welcome Mr. Bob Lee to Relics Radio. Bob, how's it going, buddy?
It is going fabulous, guys, and thank you so much for having me on. Listen, I'm delighted to be here, but you kind of scared me a little bit when you started talking about that permafrost. Listen, I got to explain something to you. I'm a native Floridian, so anything less than 70 degrees is cold to me. All right, so
so you're not joining us to Rush to the Rockies.
I can't even relate to that. So.
70 degrees, man. That's nice. Yeah,
Horrible.
that is nice.
Wow. Yeah, I feel so bad for you, Bob. Jeez.
Well, you know, the summers here can be beastly, but I mean, right now, oh man, the weather's been just fabulous. Like 40 degrees, 40% humidity, and low in the mid 50s, high in the mid 70s. So.
Whereabouts in Florida are you? North or south?
So I'm in Northeast Florida. And to make it easy for your listeners, I'm about an hour and a half south of Jacksonville, or about 45 minutes inland from St. Augustine, and about a mile from the St. Johns River.
Oh my goodness.
St. Augustine, that's a hot spot, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's what the original. Is that the
that's
original?
The oldest town, dates to the 1600s. Yeah. And let me tell you what, you talk about rules. You don't even want to think about sticking a spade in the ground. They will put you under the jail. I mean, the rules, you can't believe strict until you've read them. It is, I think it's, if you dig more than 3 inches, you got to have a permit. I mean, it's crazy, you know?
Wow.
But
sounds like Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I went to Jacksonville one time and then went west.
Okay.
And I was in the middle of this thick jungle. And the bugs were about that big, and I had just bugs crawling all over me. I was just sitting there trying to be quiet. I was doing like a meditation type thing, and oh my gosh, they were crawling in the cracks of my eyes and my mouth. And it was real practice to keep my calmness.
I think you have a gap in your story. Why were you meditating in the woods in Florida with the bugs? I mean, is this?
I was a martial artist back then, and my teacher thought it'd be fun to bring us all out there and spend like a retreat.
I have a little background in that too. Long time ago.
There you go. Man. Yeah. So I felt like I was in the jungle. It was pretty crazy. So so St. Johns River, man, that's got to be pretty exciting.
So the St. Johns, because I doubt there's many of your listeners that are familiar with it unless they've been here. The St. Johns is the largest river in Florida, totally enclosed within Florida. It's 310 miles long, and it flows from south to north, and which is a little different. Most rivers go north to south, and in its lower sections, it can very much resemble in width the Mississippi. Oh, wow. Although the water would not be as muddy as I guess the Mississippi might be. It's more of a dark tannin, translucent kind of color. And so over the complete 310 miles, the elevation drop, it descends 30 feet, just to give you an idea. So it's a very slow flowing river.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And where I'm at, there's actually a tidal influence. So it'll come up and down. There's an incoming and an outgoing tide. And so it'll vary foot and a half.
Interesting.
And I'm 60. I'm about 75 miles upstream from Jacksonville.
Do they ever find shark's teeth in that river?
Now, yeah. So in regards to that, I have one YouTube where I go out with a couple of fossil hunters in their boat. They're divers, and they've been doing this for 40 years. And it's Tony and Mike, and so you get to see I film them going down, and I film them coming back up, and there's an assortment of fossils they've come up with. Shark's teeth would be one of them, and they old manatee bones. There's just a variety of stuff they had that particular day, and I think it's about a 15-minute vid. And then I've got a couple of TikToks I've done with them too. If I'm out there fishing, if I see them, I'll stop by and I'll knock out a quick TikTok, because they've always got something in the bottom of their boat, right? Yeah. And they're experts. So in the St. Johns River, you can dive legally for fossils with a $5 permit from the state. However, you cannot dive for man-made antiquities, anything from the Civil War, technically probably old bottles, no arrowheads, no Native American artifacts at all. That would be illegal. But since fossils are not man-made, so far, they haven't made that illegal. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, they're working on that.
Tried to make that illegal as well.
Wow. Boy.
But so far, so good.
Tell us real quick how people will find you on social media and all that kind of stuff, because we want to throw out some links for everybody. Where can we find you? So
I've got several. First is bobhlee.com. That's my website. Now that's my author website. I was a game warden for 30 years. I met a lot of interesting people on both sides of the law and had some unusual experiences. And so I write about them, my first 2 nonfiction books, and then my 3rd book just came out, and I think we'll get to that later, called Bones and Water. It's a murder thriller that's set on the St. Johns River, but there's a lot of fact to support it because I spent thousands of days and nights patrolling the St. Johns and the tributaries, particularly the Ocklawaha River, which would be the lower section of the Ocklawaha would make a perfect backdrop for a Jurassic Park movie.
Oh, no kidding.
I mean, not kidding at all. There's nobody lives there. It's at the northern border of the Ocala National Forest.
Wow. That has to be pretty amazing to
That's beautiful. The lower section, there's a dam. So there's a 10-mile section from Robin Dam downstream to its confluence with the St. Johns. But it is, guys, it's gorgeous. It's unbelievable. And then there's dozens of little side creeks that spider off of it or braid off, and then they'll come back into it. And it's an amazing piece of water. It really is.
And real quick, we're going to talk about your book, Bones and Water, later, but his other books are Bad Guys, Bullets, and Boat Chases. Now, if you guys want a good read, you definitely need to go check out that one. Another one he has is Backcountry Lawmen, True Stories from a Florida Game Warden. It's all about history and culture there in Florida. Man, sounds like very exciting books for somebody to read.
The first book is basically a compilation of my first-person stories, the guys I worked with, and there's more humor. But what makes that book went well, and mainly because I write about the most notorious poacher in Putnam County, which is where I'm based, or perhaps even all of Northeast Florida. His name is Roger Gunter. It took me 5 years to get him to sit for an interview. And he told me, he says, I'll do it finally, but only after you've officially retired. And so then I went over to his house and I spent 4 days doing recorded interviews with him. So when I write these stories about us, mainly attempting to catch Roger, I change points of view, and I tell you how he thinks as a professional serial poacher. Even though he doesn't know we are there, he always tries to anticipate how we would think. And I think it makes, well, from what I've told, it makes for some really colorful stories. Let's put it that way.
Wow. I would imagine
That's awesome.
That is pretty incredible. What was that movie about that guy that Ford? He was a pilot, Catch Me If You Can or something like that.
Catch Me If You Can.
Exactly. Well, that's what the whole, that's what the whole game warden game is anyways. Catch Me If You Can. I mean, that's what always drove me. I mean, I wanted to catch. I mean, enforcing game and fish laws isn't the only thing we do. There's like boating safety, there's search and rescues and so on. But the meat and potatoes of it, at least up in this particular area, we do have a lot of poaching, or at least we did, particularly on the river. Now, I'm not so much on the river anymore. There's a variety of reasons for that. But when I began in 1977, like I was telling you all earlier, it was like the Wild West, chasing the outlaw commercial fishermen. And for a 24-year-old young man, I mean, I got a little sporting blood in me, and it was great.
Now, is St. John's a party river, like for, college kids and stuff? Is there much of that going on there?
Where at different spots around springs, around certain sandbars, they'll stack up, and you might have hundreds of boats, and they'll get drunk, and they'll set up big slides out there. And now there's one particular spot I've been thinking about going, and it would be legal to metal detect because it'd be modern, is one particular sandbar where they've been partying for years. And there's got to be a pile of gold rings down there, because I know some of them told me they're out there 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. They've got these slides set up, and they're diving off of it, and they're drunk. And so I haven't
got lotion on their hands, and the water's a little cool.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's got to be a ton of stuff down there. I just haven't bothered to go out and try it. But now that would be legal, because that would be modern, right?
Yeah.
So gold rings and so forth. So
Tony and I'll come visit you, and we'll head out there. We'll all three.
Yeah. So,
that'd be fun.
I've been threatening to do that. I just that's on my.
So many other things. Yeah.
Here's a question that came in for you, Bob, from Full Metal Digger. Good to see you, Dave. You guys have problems with the invasive snakes that far north?
No. The Burmese python is mainly, so far, I'll I'm knocking on wood here that it hasn't come up this far. It's a little too cold for them. And I hope it remains that way. We actually had, oh gosh, I think we had 14, 15 freezes here this year. So that's enough to keep them away. But down in the Everglades, they've ruined the Everglades. They've eaten all the mammals. I mean, 90% of them. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, it's bad.
Have you seen some big ones in your career?
No, I'd say all my whole career was up here. So I never really dealt with the pythons or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Just those snaky type guys.
Right. I mean, it's not to say I've counted plenty of poisonous snakes. Okay. Yeah. I mean, moccasins and rattlesnakes and that's kind of typical all in a day's work, so to speak, but nothing, nothing exotic like the pythons you're thinking of,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We have so much to talk to you about. Like we could go all kinds of different directions tonight. Your bottle digger, metal detectors, your game warden. Like if you don't have stories in you, I don't know who would. You had enough stories to write a few books. You know what I mean? So
sure.
How did you get into? We call it treasure hunting, but bottle digging is a unique thing.
And that's another way to categorize it. In my head, it's kind of just a catch-all of relic hunting. But so about probably 9 or 10 years ago, my wife and I went to Gettysburg Battlefield. And after I left there, let me tell you what, I was hooked on the Civil War. I mean, really hooked. I started going to other battlefields. I've always been a big reader, but now I'm reading books upon books upon books. I'm reading about Lee and Grant, the Civil War. And that leads me to taking an interest in the Civil War in Northeast Florida and then local history. And before you know it, I'd say to myself, this is 4 or 5 years ago, I got to go out. I got to get me a metal detector. I got to find me some of this history, right? So I did. And that I probably metal detected 4 or 5 months. And I found my first bottle. And then, buddy, that was, I kind of transitioned over to bottles then. I really like the bottles. And the last
you still have that bottle?
I beg your pardon?
You still have the bottle?
I do. I've got it.
I love it.
You want to see it?
Hell yeah, we want to see it.
Well, hold on.
Of course we do.
I gotta leave for just a second. Hold on.
Yeah. See, Dave popped in with, let's hear a good poacher story.
I know, right?
We'll have to get to that.
Yeah. Hey, if you guys are just joining us, we've got Bob Lee from Relic Rescue on with us, and we're talking poaching and relics and all kinds of stuff.
I'm trying to be all fancy here. I got these ear pod things in my head.
There you go.
So I had found, first of all, let me back up on this bottle.
Yeah.
So I was using a 1912 topographic map to find old home sites. And on this map, there are little black dots the size of this pinhead right here. You can barely see them on the map. Each one of those dots represented the home site. And I knew from previous experience that this surveyor was extremely accurate. So I took that topo map. I went to 1943 aerial maps, which was the oldest aerial shot in Florida. I tried to find the area there. Then I went to the modern property appraiser's map. The short of it all is I found the parcel, the land. It was a 10-acre parcel. I happen to know the property owner. I know a lot of people in Putnam County. I've been here for 30 years. Trust me.
Yeah.
But I hadn't talked to her in decades. But anyway, I got hold of her. She says, sure, you can go out there and metal detect. I want to go with you. I haven't looked at the property in 40 years. My husband won't go. I said, well, come on. And so, you know what? Within 30 minutes, we found it. It was on her property. And I was within 150 feet of it. So I felt pretty good about that. Now we're out in the middle of the woods now. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, so we found the old home site. It kind of looked like it had been dug. At least the bricks had been dug up. And I really didn't find a whole lot there, but I came back later without her, and I got a hit with my metal detector, just a metal hit. This is very soft, sugary sand, the best digging you can get. Super soft. It's not packed. I mean, nobody's run over it in decades. And I start digging. I come up with these rusty cans, right? Food cans. It's only like 2 foot down. And I thought to myself, I've heard this is where they can find a bottle. And sure enough, a bottle fell out of the sidewall right into my hand. And I look at it, and this is it right here. And it's a patent med. And I know it's kind of hard to see. And it is lettered. It says Ackerman and Jackson, Palaca, Florida. And so I took a photo of it. It's in perfect condition. So I took a photo. And I sent it to the local historian who I knew. He came back and he said, that bottle's 1878 to 1901. I said, boom, that was it, buddy. I was done.
Yep.
I went full bore on bottles after that. And I don't know. And now don't get me wrong. I still metal detect some, but I don't know. You just have to come up with so much junk. I mean, you take brass, for instance. I mean, I dig all brass. I mean, because what happens if it's a brass Civil War belt buckle? I mean,
you never know.
I've never found one, but this is what I got in my head, right? And so you got to dig it all up, brass belt buckles and everything. So, but I do, and we pretty much focus on bottles, although the last year I haven't done much because I think I explained earlier, I had a couple operations on my left hand, but now I'm kind of getting to where we can go out and do a little bit. So that's what got me hooked, so I found the bottle dump with the metal detector, and that's not the first one I found with a metal detector either. Because, I had another, I'm trying to remember how it's a metal pan. It's a particular, it's a particular coating they put on, kind of a porcelain coating they put on these old pans and pots. Well, anyway, I was metal detecting. This thing is only like 6 inches down. I dig it up, and some glass comes up with it. And I said, holy cow. I said, this was a massive bottle dump. And they had, it was 7 feet down and in what was an old cistern, but probably not the kind of cisterns you may be thinking about where you're at up there. But I worked on that for weeks. That was during COVID. That was my hobby digging. That was on my property. So I come out of I got 18 acres. So I come out of the house, I go up into the north pasture. And that's what I did every afternoon for 6. This is all COVID. You can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
So I'm digging the hell out of it, and found quite a few bottles, and some of them were even found some hutches out of it. I think I found 4 hutches.
Oh, did you? Wow.
If you're familiar with the hutch, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's what almost everyone's after. Any poisons and stuff like that? I know that.
I did not get any poisons out of that one. We have found a few poisons. I found one that's in perfect condition. I'm looking at it now. That was Owens glass. That was 1915, 1929. I don't know if you are familiar with Owens, Illinois glass. They started machine making bottles, and both of those companies made huge quantity of bottles, but they have an identifier on the base. It's a boxed O for Owens glass.
Okay.
And for the Illinois, it's a diamond with a tiny I in it. So if you find bottles with either of those two maker's marks in them, it has to be between 1915 and 1929, because after 1929, Owens glass and Illinois glass merged. And then they had a different identifier mark. And so if you see that, then it has to be after 1929. And so at least in this area where I'm at, there are a lot of bottles made, machine made by Owens Illinois glass. And of course, before 1915, generally you're kind of getting into your pre-machine.
You can really go down the rabbit hole with bottle collecting and stuff. Like
and I'm sure a lot of your viewers / listeners know this, but there's a website on bottles that is fantastic. I don't know who put this website together, but the enormous amount of research and the photographs, I mean, it's awesome. I've wore it out. I mean, just I don't have it. Well, I might be able to send it to you later as a link. But I think I think the guys out there would be interested in it. I mean, it's fantastic for doing research.
Is it that Old West Bottles one or something different?
Now wait a minute, Old West Bottles. That's where I buy the probes.
Okay, all right.
That's different. I might have a minute here. I can look it up real quick and send it to you.
Everyone in the chat, let me know if you know the site he's talking about. Go ahead and throw it in there. Yeah. Are you Bob? Are you familiar with Tom Asham?
I am not.
He's a YouTuber, bottle digger, younger guy. Below the Plains used to be his YouTube channel.
Yeah, used to be. What's the new one now?
Yeah, I'm not familiar, but he is a forever bottle digger, young guy. So it's always cool to see younger guys get into it. But he is, how many how many pits has he dug? 1,600 or something pits.
Now he's the
in
one
his career?
I watched earlier on your
Lost
on our
Horizons.
channel. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yep.
just watched him earlier. He said
Oh.
1,600. Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
an
Lost
interesting guy, man.
Horizons.
Lost Horizons. is
Well, I
amazing.
haven't done
Yep.
1,600, but I've dug quite a few bottle pits though. My buddy and I have. It's kind of pathetic. I'm 71, and I got all sorts of joint issues. My buddy's had 4 knee surgeries, so if we're digging a hole, he is unable to kneel. Okay, so it's pathetic. 2 of us together almost make one human being, but it's a poor sorry excuse for one. No, I'm serious. I mean, you got to be real about it, And so so I'll get down on the hole, and then I'll hand it to him if I'm filming, and then I'll film him talking about it. But we've kind of had a little break there this last year, but I was watching a lot of YouTube bottle videos 4 years or so ago, but I kind of just really don't have the time to do a lot of that anymore. But a lot of those that I was watching was up in the Northeast. I'm watching some of those guys dig these privies that now I'd have to tell you, you're going down 30 feet in a privy. Now to me, that's really sketchy. I mean, sketchy, dangerous. You know what I'm saying? For
Going
a cave
down
in.
that deep.
I mean,
I think 12 foot is sketchy. So further than that in a privy.
You go down below chest deep. I mean, because even in some of the ones I've done, I mean, I've had a partial cave in and have my legs covered up, and I'm by myself, and it's like 7. I'm thinking, you know what? That's a lot of weight. It's a lot more weight than what you think. Yeah.
I think the coolest thing about bottle digging, and somebody had mentioned it, the local bottles. I think that's what kind of has a draw, I guess, is you're digging a very specific bottle to your area and to your spot location that I'm not going to find in Colorado. And you have such a good history and the rabbit hole that you can go down for your area.
Correct.
And Colorado's different. North Dakota's different. Boston is, I think it's just so incredible that, yes, we're finding the same type of bottle, but it's made by this company with this embossing for this product, for this pharmacist. I mean, it becomes such a unique item that I think that's one of the draws of bottle digging. Now, Ken and I have done some bottle digging out here. We would love to do more because just talking with the guests that come on that bottle dig, the passion and I'll be honest with you, the knowledge of bottles, it just blows us away how people can know so much about a specific bottle. It's incredible.
Well, you study it, but I will reiterate that website that I'm talking about it's beyond fabulous. I mean, there's another one out there for shotgun shells that is just incredible. I mean, because you find these old shotgun shells, and so to me, that kind of, I mean, they're not worth anything, right? I mean, you find a lot of them, but it dates it. It dates the area. And on a shotgun shell, it's a very narrow production date range, whereas say on a rifle shell, it could be 30, 40 years. But on a shotgun shell, it might be 1898 to 1902. Well, bingo, I'm in the right time area. If I find any bottles, hopefully they're going to be pre-machined, which is what my buddy and I, we kind of shoot for. I mean, not to say there aren't some great bottles that are machine made. There are. I mean, they're fabulous, but that's kind of what we,
I'm on that head stamp site all the time. I think it's called Cartridge Corner.
That's it. Cartridge Corner. Right. I think it's Cartridge Corner. That guy is, he's excellent. Excellent.
Provides a great service, because I don't know how many times I've been on his site looking at some old shotgun.
I even think his site will help you date the brass shotgun shells, which came about in mid 1980s. I found a couple there, 1884, 1885, according to the head stamp on it. So then, obviously before that, you're much older, and then you're getting into muzzle loaders with, pouring a shot in the barrel.
There used to be a guy on the forums that gave a lot of that shotgun head stamp information. His name was Turtlefoot, and he used to.
Now I've heard of him before. Yes,
he has provided oodles of information. Then he just kind of disappeared. And didn't do it anymore. But
I just think it helps. It just help. It's kind of a confidence builder to me, right? I mean, you're here, so okay. Well, maybe I'm going to find a coin in that date range. I mean, who knows? But
Yeah.
Well, it just reaffirms your research, or you're in the right spot.
exactly.
Now narrow it down, go a little bit slower if you're metal detecting, of course, and really start to kind of dig and pinpoint everything at that point.
Right. But when we're here, we do, our town is Palaca, which is a population of 10,000. So if we're in town and if you can find a site that hasn't been metal detected, which is almost impossible. But if you can find one, you'll come up with some coins. I did one house that was a virgin house. It had never been metal detected. And I came up with quite a few coins. But once you get out into the country, boy, we don't typically find many coins around an old home site. Just don't. There's one, I pounded it. It was an 1880s, what we call a grove house, and it burnt down, and there's bricks. And I found an 1864 Indian head penny and a 1947 wheat penny, and I wore it out. Now, I did find some other interesting relics to go along with that, but that as far as coins go, that was it.
Why do you think? Do you think because it was hit, or if they dropped something?
I think that they bartered a lot. I don't necessarily think they had a lot of coins. I really do. Here in the South, it was poor, particularly after the Civil War. I mean, it was rough going. And that's what I'm kind of thinking. And the people in town, a lot of the homes we're doing in town, they were more prosperous. They were more wealthy. Right. They were shop owners. And we know the history. We know the history of all these different families. And so once we get permission, if you can get permission,
yeah.
Right. And you need to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody.
Well, my buddy, I kind of looked into him. He happens to live in the North Historic District of Palaca. There's a South Historic and a North Historic District. The older homes, well, now some of them are pre-Civil War, but most of them 1870s, 1880s, 1890s. Well, he goes out and he walks his dogs every evening, and he's talking to people, shaking hands every evening. And so, and of course, I still know a lot of people in town, and between the two of us, we've hit a lot of the old homes there. And one of them in particular was the Loeb Hilburn house. And this thing was a gold mine. I must have 4 or 5 YouTubes on that one. And we actually did one YouTube just of a tour of the house. The owner gave us permission to do that. But anyway, the owner of the house happened to be a guy who had just come out and painted the house my wife and I own. He was our painter. And so when I ran into him, oh yeah, Bob, you can come out and dig in my backyard. It's already been metal detected 3 or 4 times, but you can dig. It hadn't been dug. Now, we didn't get much metal detecting, just a couple of coins, but boy, oh boy, we got in that back. There's a carriage house behind the main house. The carriage house is still there, guys.
Wow.
And there was a huge pit right behind the carriage house. And then every few feet, there's another dump, and there's another dump, and there's another dump. We worked that thing on for a year. We dug our butts off, and it was pretty good. It treated us real good.
That's what I like about your YouTube channels. You do all kinds of different things. Like you take us to old areas, like that old city jail video you had. That home you're talking about is this beautiful Queen Anne home. I mean,
that's it. That's the Loeb Hilburn home.
The Loeb Hilburn home. Man, that's a great video because it's absolutely beautiful home.
And I also try to mimic, I don't know if you picked up on it, the horses clopping at the very beginning of the video. And I have the camera swing because we're coming up to the carriage steps, right? The carriage steps there's only 2 homes in Palaca that still have the carriage steps. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the servants would pull up at the carriage and the owners would get out. They go up the carriage steps and take their, to follow their walk on into the house. The servants would return to the back of the house into the carriage house and, unhook the animals and everything like that. So, but I will share with you, there's something I just found out about, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this up as a YouTube and probably a TikTok. During the Civil War, there were 5,500 Union troops that occupied Palaca for 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And during the course of that 6 weeks, a Union soldier stole a Bible from an Episcopal church here. Okay, so 50 years later, the Bible is returned to the church with a note. Now I think there's a story there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to film it. I'm getting up with the historian for the church Friday morning, and I'm going to film that. I can't help but do it. I'm just and she says there's the note and the Bible is there. She took the Bible out of the safe. She's got it ready for me. So I just it'll be a short one, but that's something I've got going. I'm coming up.
That's amazing.
Like
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I think it's different. It's interesting. It's serious history. I mean,
100%. And you're there to touch it and to hear the story. You know what I mean? That you can then pass along to all of us watching your YouTube channel. That's amazing.
Well, I'm program coordinator for the local historical society in a town south of me, and so I'm all in. So some of those videos are kind of coordinated with them to try to help that historical society out a little bit and tell the story of it's in Crescent City. And
we tell everyone all the time, you got to get involved with your local historical society. I'm sure that your involvement with them, Bob, has led to some interesting contacts with history and learning about history, but possible, some good contacts too out there to
and you might be able to end up doing a little digging as a result of those contacts.
Yeah.
So that's always a possibility too, although that's kind of in the back of my mind, but if it happens, it happens. But I just enjoy it. I do enjoy the old homes. I don't really know much technically about them, so I'm kind of winging it a little bit. I'm not an expert in old house architecture, but I've got, I try to study on it before I do YouTube on a little bit. So.
We interviewed this guy, Brass Medic, on YouTube, and he's a big, huge bottle digger. And he dug in San Francisco area, so on the West Coast.
Wow.
And he said, what's cool about that is we talked about finding local bottles, and that's all cool. But because people would bring out stuff there as they pushed west, they would bring bottles from wherever they were at. So you find bottles from all across the United States.
I had not thought about that.
Yeah, it's all exciting because that was a big migration point.
Oh, he must have a heck of a bottle collection.
Yeah.
He's crazy.
Yeah, he's pretty crazy, like what he's gotten into with bottles and these old bottle like legends, because in the we'll call it the hobby of bottle digging, there are legends out there, right? There are like people that have dug bottles forever, and he's met a bunch of them out there digging bottles himself in San Francisco. So I guess one guy walked up and he turned out to be this big legend guy. And
what I find interesting out there in the West, it's so dry. There's no, very, very little rain compared to Florida with this excessive humidity most of the time. I do remember seeing some YouTubes. They get these bottles. They've been laying out there. I mean, the labels are still on them, guys. The labels are still on them.
They're baked.
Yeah. I mean, here in Florida, my buddy and I have only dug one site where we came up with some 9 olive oils from Bordeaux, France, that still had the label.
Wow.
And they, as soon as you put it in the air, it starts flaking. But there's some things you can do to keep that from happening. So one of them is, I had to do some research, was to take some plastic wrap, get it up around the bottle, take a rubber band and wrap it around the neck. You can clean the inside, then take it off, kind of knock the dirt off as best you can, or brush it off that label and spray it. There's a little glue you can buy at Walmart for hobby glue. It comes in a spray. And I use painter's tape around it. You got to do this real quick and spray it. It works pretty darn good. And then after you spray it with the glue, you take the painter's tape away. Now you very carefully clean as best you can the exterior of the bottle, right?
Sure.
So you usually clean your bottles, Bob?
As best I can.
Well. Some of them do you use?
Yeah, some of them the glass is bad, is not good glass, and so I mean, obviously, you put it. A lot of the professionals put them in tumblers with copper shavings, and they'll tumble the bottle. And I don't have a tumbler. I just do the best I can. And some of them turn out really nice, and some of them don't. But like the bottle I just showed you. Now it is kind of the glass is right here. It's kind of got a little bit of a haze on it. That's in the glass. You're not going to get that out on the inside, I don't think. But for the most part, though, it's in really good shape. So, like I said, some of them clean up well, and some of them, like if you have an old ale like black glass, it doesn't really matter because you can't see through the glass anyway. So that kind of relieves you from that stress of having to think you've got to clean it.
I know some people use muriatic acid treatment and all kinds of different stuff to try to clean their bottles.
I've tried different things, but I've tried just about everything. But I mean, it's either going to get clean or it's not. And of course, I got brushes, and there's one particular brush I bought that worked out really good. I should have had it with me. I don't, but it's got a curve to it. And so I guess the brush, I got to do it right. It's about that wide, right? But when you put it in there, you can get up against the sides of the interior of the bottle really easy with it. And I like it. It's only it was like $11,
like a nylon brush or something like that.
Yeah. But it had a curve to it.
No, that's really pretty cool. That is cool. We had some comments coming in. Let me see. What do we say here? Snap and Scavenge said, I just started digging bottles about 6 months ago, and he's completely hooked.
Do we know where he's at?
Yeah, let us know. Snap. I don't know. Look, but his icon right there is little.
He's got bottles.
He's got bottles.
He's got hutches, baby. He's the real deal. Look at
that. Very cool.
He's doing pretty well already in 6 months.
He's doing really well. Yeah. Because the hutches, all bottle collectors want a hutch. You go back to the local. The bottles that I'm looking at hutches now, but they're made in Palaca, and I don't have any true Cokes. These were carbonated waters, but it's got the logo and a slug plate on the side, saying Palaca Bottle Works, and I think down toward the base it does say Coca-Cola Bottling Company, but they weren't filled. The contents weren't Coke. Okay. Although the first Cokes were bottled in a hutch, I think from, I don't have it with me. I'm guessing now it's 1898, 1902. Then it went to the straight side. And then 1915, you went to the hobble skirt for your Coke that everybody's so familiar with, right?
It's so interesting. Gosh, all that stuff. I love the history, how it changes. And like something like mason jars or ball jars, based on the curl or the bee and things like that, you can date it, very specifically. I think it's absolutely amazing how we can figure that stuff out.
And that's on the ball. Yeah. On the mason jars, you are absolutely correct. You can date it by the script. You can do the same thing with Clorox bottles too, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too big into, I found a lot of Clorox bottles, but I mean, they take up, they're big. Some of them are big and they just take up. I've only got limited space for my bottles, right? So you gotta have a break point somewhere. But I know some people do collect them. So
yeah.
Dave Full Metal Digger said, for some reason he's fascinated with the ginger beer bottles. They're tan ceramic bottle with many different embossings.
Oh yeah,
a ginger beer that's tan ceramic. Okay,
it's gonna be almost like the what are those called?
You mean like a crock? Is he talking about
crock?
A crock beer?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, the crock beers. Yeah.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
Uh-oh.
You're
ready,
gonna go
Dave,
grab
here.
his collection of 4 of them.
I know. Full Metal Digger, but hang on, buddy. Here we go.
Don't break them, Bob. Heard you crash in the background there. Don't be breaking them.
Had a lamp fall over there, but that's okay, guys. All right, let me get my ears back in.
Don't drop those bottles, man.
Yeah. We don't care about the lamp. You save the bottle, right?
Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah.
Is that what he's talking about?
Dave, let us know. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so we call it kind of a crock beer. Now, I did not find this. My buddy gave it to me. He comes from New York, and when he was a child, he and his mother used to go through historic homes before they demolished them, and they came up with all sorts of crocks.
Yeah.
And so this is from his collection that he gave to me. So although I have seen one just like this that was found along Crescent Lake, which is not too far from me.
Is that embossed, Bob, or is it smooth?
No, there is no lettering on it at all. So it's just the two different.
Wow. Look at the
shades of
condition.
color.
That's
It's
amazing.
in perfect condition. And I think we're talking 1850s, maybe. I mean, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
Jeez.
When you're digging bottles, like when you find an embossed bottle, is that like, oh yeah, like is that the highlight
Yes.
of a dig?
Yes,
it's a
because
really
you reach down there in that hole and you start touching that bottle and you're digging in it and you're feeling it and you're going under roots and you can feel that lettering with your thumb, and that's like a portal in time. You're touching history there, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody's touched that bottle since I was first thrown in there, and so it's just cool. And you pull it out and you look at it, and Chris is the guy I dig with, and so between the two of us, we're debating, and I'm pulling out my phone and I'm Googling this son of a gun, and I'm trying to figure out, if we don't know the history of the bottle, exactly what it is, right? So
I bet
That's
it's
just
cool.
as fun as finding it.
Yeah.
yeah.
The research part.
I bet it's cool when you don't immediately recognize a bottle. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, I'm gonna share
have.
something. I'm gonna do a little takeoff or jump off from that other guy that I was listening to. Tom, I think was it, and the one who dug 1,600 pits.
Yeah, Tom
Asham. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he was talking about getting kicked off a piece of property. So Chris and we get permission to dig a home site that was probably 1900s plus or minus. And so the owner comes out and it's and she says, I don't really care about bottles. Well, we started probing. We always, when we go into the backyard, we start with we go to the back of the lot, probe there around the edges, and then we work our way into the center up behind the house, right? Because sometimes, well, that's how we do it. So we find this great bottle dump and we're pulling out really nice stuff. And she's there with her phone, Googling every bottle. Well, this is worth $70, she tells us. Well, wait a minute. I've never sold a bottle yet, and neither has Chris. That's our stick, right? We tell the owner, we're not in it for the money. We only want one bottle that we don't have, and the rest of them we give away. We give away to the owner. And then we pull out another bottle. And we tell her we're going to give her some. Now, this is work for old guys, right? Because we're sawing through roots. We got a sawzall there. We're doing the whole deal. And we were giving some bottles. And then the second day we're there and we're in the more bottle dumps. And one of the things we found we hadn't ever found before was this one right here. And so this is a snuff. This is a snuff bottle. It still has the closure mechanism.
No kidding.
And I know it's very hard to see.
Ooh, wow.
But it's double patent dates on the glass lid, right? A patent date for the closure mechanism, a patent date for the bottle. We found 5 of these. I think 2 of them were complete. It's the only place. Now, this is a lot of snuff that went in that bottle, right? I can't imagine somebody using that much, but
it's a lot.
But that's an example of one of the bottles we pulled out, and we pull some nice sodas out, because typically, I don't know why, but we don't find a lot of soda bottles. On the third day we go there, and she says, you need to stop digging.
Oh,
because she thought we were making a mint off of her property, because she keeps Googling.
Right.
It was crazy. But when at the time she told us to stop, we were in the middle of the backyard, and I just hit a bottle with the tip of my probe. I just touched it. It was only like 8 inches down. She says, "You need to stop. We'll take over." I'm having my sister come in. Anyway, listen. We don't get excited about it. That's human nature, and you just go on, And I saw her the other day in the supermarket, and I talked nice to her, and it was fine. And there's no sense getting excited about it. There's always another dump. And so
after you guys left, we didn't find nothing.
I doubt that she ever dug it. I really did.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
A lot of people would just rather know that it's there on their property than necessarily it be dug out or somebody else find it.
She was very into that we were stealing things from her.
Sure. Yeah.
And because we met, as you all have, all sorts of personality types. When you walk up there and you start talking to them, and I just, I've talked to so many people. I was in law enforcement, so I just kind of improvise, and we kind of, you go up there. I try to get a read on them, and on the metal detecting, we'll show you what we find. But on these bottles now, no. That's a little bit of work. We tell them, we by this time we've got a lot of the bottles that can be found in Palaca, so we're looking for the unusual one. We'll tell them we want to keep that. If we find one we have already found, it's yours. And so a good example of that is a very nice lady. We dug a carriage house that was some distance away, interestingly, from the main house, which was 1870s. And there were a lot of good bottle dumps in the backyard. And she'd come out and check on us. And every day we'd give her some bottles. And so finally we gave her, and you have the photograph of one of these. It's that citrine colored bottle I sent you. It's a Saxliner spring water. And when you put it up to the sun, it's gorgeous. It has a citrine color to it. 1890s from Budapest, Hungary. And so we cleaned the bottles for her too before we give her to her. And so I went up to her door one day and I said, "Here, this is what we got. We want to give it to you." And I gave her the history in the bottle. And she looked at me. She said, "My family is from Budapest, Hungary."
No way.
Oh my God.
Dude, she was just gobsmacked. And she says, "I will put this up on display." And we gave her some other really nice bottles. So
love that.
If the owner will just be patient with us, we're going to end up with a bottle collection. But I mean, you're digging, and this is work. I mean, the metal detecting, that's a lot easier. But the bottle digging, that's what
I don't get that, Bob. How do you convince a landowner to let you dig a privy? We asked Tom the same thing. Like, how do you go about doing that? Like, detecting your yard where we're going to put little.
We go up there and you kind of soft pedal. We're into history and some of the stuff. My buddy's on the historical board in Palaca, and so when you tell somebody that, it kind of makes him like he's an historian and he's going to protect things. And I'm program coordinator for my historical society. And so one house we went up to, and I told the lady that, "Oh my gosh, I love history." And she starts bringing out these books, and I actually got her to come down to some of our presentations that were done at our historical society. Right. And so that works out really well for us. But I mean, we just kind of soft pedal it, explain what we're doing. We're going to cover up the holes. Now, if they've got a really nice, it makes me nervous if the front yard is a really nice lawn. Okay.
Right.
And you're not going to be digging big holes in that. That ain't happening. You might dig, like you were talking about, the little plug, and then you've got your towel there, or a little tarp, and you're going to take it out and you're going to put it back. And I've seen, I get how to do all of that. But a lot of times in Palaca, the backyard is pretty rank. It's not good ground I don't know why. It just doesn't grow grass well. So it's like spotty and kind of weedy. They mow it. And so they're not very protective of it. I want to add one more thing I found out about getting permissions. If that home is fenced in with a gate, you are probably not going to get permission. Almost 100%.
Because they're stay out.
If there's no gate and there's no fence, there's a psychological thing. I'm telling you guys, it's psychological. This homeowner, if they got their property fenced in, they're more protective of it. They really, but if it's open to the street, you stand a much greater chance of success. At least that's
good point.
That's been our experience.
Hey, I wanted to ask you real quick. What was the color of that bottle? Was it a teal one?
The one that the Saxliner spring water, citrine.
Yeah.
That was citrine. It was kind of so it's kind of a yellowish green. And I've got it, and I've held it up to the sun.
Okay.
I don't know if I think I sent it to you. I think I did. There, that's it right there. And so you can see the color is beautiful, and
it's gorgeous.
I really like that citrine, and that's a perfect bottle. I mean, if you're into the money end of it, I think they sell for around 40. But that'll be 1890s, and it's a spring water from Budapest, Hungary. I don't really understand. I don't understand why they're shipping spring waters or carbonated waters over from Europe. I don't understand that. I don't. Why don't you just drink water out of a well? I don't know. Maybe I'm too simple a person.
Practical Ken asked a question a while back when you were showing that snuff bottle. Do you know what year that snuff jar is?
Yeah. So, well, the patent date on it is it's old, but that's not. One patent date's 1876. The other patent date's 1872. I think it's around 1890s. On that particular bottle.
I think somebody in the chat said it may have been from a store or a merchant. So they had it filled with snuff and then they would, you know what I mean? They would.
I see what you mean. They wouldn't sell the whole bottle.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I had not thought about that. Yeah.
Because you found numerous ones.
We found 2 complete, 3 that were broken. It's the only place that we found that. And we're talking about, I'm sorry. I'm going to take my ears off. I'm going to turn them back around and try not to knock over the lamp again.
Tony, your new studio looks like that sticker. You got a big sticker on your wall. It says Relics Radio.
I didn't have to go far for this one. Now, I sent you guys a photo of a young girl on her belly digging in a pit. Can you put that one up?
You got that, Tony? Tony has those.
I didn't transfer that one. Give me a second.
That's okay. You can tell the story. Matter. It doesn't matter. All right. So here's a torpedo.
Wow. Look at that thing.
Okay. So some of them are lettered. Now, I know some of them are lettered. I don't possess any that are lettered, but I do know they come lettered or slick. Now, this is a carbonated water from London, England. This particular hole that we were digging with that young girl, that was her. She goes to my wife's church, and so this is her Christmas present. We dug the church grounds, which is pre-Civil War, and I had found this pit. It was pure bottles. 80% of them are whole, and we got some incredible. We found 6 of these intact. Carbonated waters, London, England. Now, there it is, right there. So you can see one of the carbonated waters about right to the right of that hand, right there. Yeah, up higher.
Yeah, right there behind the hutch.
Oh, there you go. That's not a hutch. That's a patent med. That's a beautiful. Okay, right. So, and that's a beautiful patent med. I wish I had a closer up photograph of it from Lowell, Massachusetts. It's perfect condition, nicely embossed. She's got some black glass there. There's one bottle that might be pottled. I think it's that black glass there. Now, some of your viewers might know more. I think that's been polished in either fire polished or maybe polished in a turn mold. I can't quite remember. She's got some champagnes. Just a whole
beautiful iridescent up there too. That iridescent.
Yeah, this really one cool. Up here.
Yeah. I had another picture of her with all the bottles, but I can't show her face, guys. So because she was 12 at the time, I don't want to go there.
She was in there.
That's not a very big pit, Bob.
No. So so this thing's about 1.5 feet wide and went down about 3 feet. And so what happened, and the church is right behind her. You can't see it. I went in there a few days before to save time. And I found this hole, and I did a little test dig going down to the top of it. And what I was getting out told me I was in the right date range, right? Like 1880s, 70s. So we came back, and she dug the whole thing by herself. And she told me later, that's the best Christmas present I ever had. But she ended up with a whole bottle collection out of that.
Wow.
And the other half of the day, we metal detected, and we found a few coins, but none of them were super old, So, but
cool that she got into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
cool
really.
She's all about it. And one of the things we're going to do is go under, not the church itself, but we're going to go under the office, which is where the original church was. The original church was built before the Civil War. So I get my hand feeling a little better. We're going to crawl underneath there with a light and some probes. We're going to see if we can find some bottles just beneath the surface or anything like that. Just
very
for grins.
Cool.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
I've never seen a torpedo bottle before. I think it's the first time I've ever seen one.
And they also have round bottoms, and those are Those are a lot of those are ginger ales from Dublin, I think. Yeah. And some of those come in Boss. We found a few of those, but not too many. Now these were stored sideways. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do they store them?
So they stored them sideways to keep the cork damp,
cork wet,
so the carbonation wouldn't fizz out, right? And so and you can see the lip is really, really crude. You can see how uneven it is and everything. I mean, it's just, yeah.
That's a cool bottle, man.
You gotta like it.
That's a cool bottle. I have a contractor of mine that he found some bottles one time. I told the story a couple of times, and I showed an interest in it. So now every time he goes on a new job site, he's sending me pictures. Ken, is this worth anything? You know, most people that are lay people, right, that aren't in the hobby, that's usually all they want to know about, right? So how much is that worth?
Yeah, they want to know how much it's worth. And unfortunately, you know, if you flip it over and look at the base, well, you know, it's machine made and it's kind of modern. And so while we're at it, and before we forget it, I have to show you my most favorite bottle. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Would love to see it.
Here it is, guys. This is the bomb right here.
What is that?
That's the one I was asking about. Yes.
It's a panel. This one.
Now, okay, so this is a cathedral.
Gosh.
All right, this is a cathedral pickle. Now check it out. Now, for those who know are familiar, it's an iron panel. When I cleaned it, and I shouldn't have cleaned the iron came off when I hit it with a solution of 50% Clorox, 50% water. But this was all rusty here. So you can see the panel mark, which means generally you're talking Civil War or older, because after the end of the Civil War, they went to a different method that didn't require a punty rod, which makes the panel mark, or this divot in the bottle. And there's different kinds of panel marks, right? So this was it's called a cathedral. This is and if you look at the lip, it is perfect. There's not a flea bite in it, nothing. So when I found this bottle, I found it on the home site of a Civil War veteran on the bank of the St. Johns. It had a big storm come through and a piece of it was sticking out. And so this is the only bottle I've ever put up on the antique bottle forum. Never been there before. Now the photographs I had were there. There you go. That's it right there. You can see it looks a lot better there. I did leave some dirt on the inside just to show that it was a dug bottle. I could get all that dirt out. And I put it up there, and these are the pros. These are the guys that go to the big auction houses in New York to bid on bottles. And there was one guy that had been collecting cathedral pickles since 1975. He wanted to buy it from me immediately. And another guy told me that if I put it at one of the big auction houses, it would fetch at least $2,000. And it's because the mold is very rare. And they got it very technical about it. The one guy, he said, this is a rare mold. And so it's called a cathedral pickle, but that doesn't mean it had pickles. It could have had brandied cherries. It could have had spiced lobster, something really much more exotic than your common pickle. It's a fantastic bottle. And I found it on the home side of a Civil War veteran. His name was John Bland Hazel. He was a private and a scout who rode with Confederate Captain J.J. Dickinson. Now, I'm sure probably none of your listeners are familiar with him, but he is the most consequential rebel to have fought in Florida. He was in over probably 35 to 40 skirmishes and small battles, never lost, probably only lost 3 of his men. I mean, he was wicked. I mean, he was hell on wheels. And so anyway, this guy, John Bland Hazel, like I said, was a private scout who rode with him. And my buddy and I, what remains of his estate, originally it was 400 acres, but the people who own it gave us permission. Well, we've been out there numerous times and looking and poking around.
I'm wondering if I got friends and buddies that dig out there, digging in Virginia, and they go out there by Richmond and Culpeper, and they do these digs out there. And I know they're always looking for pickle jars, but I don't know if it's the cathedral pickle jars they're looking for. Would
Now
they have those out during like winter camps and stuff, or are they just too big?
This is a pretty exotic bottle. I think that John Bland Hazel actually has some money. He, after the Civil War, they built a large frames 2-story house in 1870, and it was there until 1980 when it burnt down in a fire. I can't help but think he was a cattleman. I can't one way or the other. I think he has some money, and I think you had steamers or paddle wheelers came up here and they offloaded, and I don't know. I don't know, but that's a one-off. I've never found anything like
That's
it. I've
amazing.
never even found a
It's
broken
so
one.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think
Absolutely
they come in
beautiful.
different shades, right? They come in different shades. I think
They
some
come
of
in
them are
different
more
shades,
blue and different
and
types of green.
There is a museum. I've got the photograph somewhere where when they display their cathedral pickles, it's one bottle at a time, set off by itself with a light underneath it. There is an amber cathedral pickle that sold at auction, an amber one in New York, and it fetched $41,500.
My gosh,
Holy
for a
cow.
bottle.
Now, but that was amber, which I gather
Probably rare.
is a much rarer color. And now I don't know what kind of mold that was either, but I'm just sharing that just for grins. There you go. There's some others.
I was
They
just
come in
looking
all
at,
shapes.
I
Yep.
just pulled this up and saw the blues and the greens, different sizes.
They're gorgeous bottles. Yep. Yeah.
They're absolutely amazing. I've never even heard of them, but I love how cathedral, right? I mean, you've got that
Cathedral
shape.
pickle. Yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely a gorgeous
I
bottle.
think it's because of some of the designs on it. I
Sure.
guess on the side, but
What a
it's
great...
about 11 and a half inches high. So
Wow.
Yeah, you got a great one.
Yeah, I was just looking it up online, and I could tell I could go right down the rabbit hole if I keep looking at.
I know. I'm already there.
Oh my gosh!
And so I've never put another bottle yet up in the antique bottle form. You know what I mean? Because those guys, the kind of bottles they put up, I mean,
They mean business.
Yeah, they're serious. They're very serious. They are.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's amazing, man. Well, hey, let's. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Bones and Water?
Sure.
So we've talked a lot about bottle digging, and tell us a little bit about Bones and Water. First, what is it? Because if people are joining us late, they don't know.
Sure. So I'm an author. My first two books were Backcountry Lawman and Bad Guys, Bulls, and Boat Chases. They are nonfiction. And my first book is a compilation of my stories as a former game warden. Trust me, I had some unusual experiences. And the Bad Guys, Bulls, and Boat Chases covers all of peninsular Florida. It's quite dramatic. I'm a reporter here. I did 3 years of research for the 17 stories I write about in that book. A lot of them are, there it is, quite dramatic. And a lot of them, I came to know these officers throughout the course of my career. And so they felt comfortable in talking to me. And I did a lot of research. And if it was a gunfight, for instance, I would pull the arrest summaries, or if it's a plane crash like Flight 401, I looked at the NTSB crash records. I actually interviewed a stewardess and a passenger that survived the crash of Flight 401. And that's the first chapter in Bad Guys, Bullets, and Boat Chases.
Wow.
And so the third book I worked on for over 3 years. It is a novel. It's what I call a murder thriller, and maybe suspense, action, and adventure. Takes place. It's a river story. Now, for your listeners who are familiar with C.J. Box, C.J. Box is an immensely popular author out of Wyoming. Yep. He writes
I have a couple of those books.
Okay, you're familiar, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
He's got Netflix and Amazon. He sold millions and millions of books. So this is my take on a Southern iteration of kind of what he does. Although this is mainly a river story. And I wanted to make it that way because it makes it different. And in the beginning theme is that there's a manatee that has to be recovered by Jake Hawkins. He is our protagonist, the Florida game warden. And this is a typical manatee recovery. All manatees have to be recovered and turned over to a marine mammal biologist for a necropsy. Anyway, when he comes up to the manatee, which has been dead for like 7 or 8 days, this is my own personal experience. I'm just, putting it in here. he finds out that it hasn't been killed by watercraft. Instead, the rib bones have been cut out. And so thus begins one layer of conflict, because the ribs on a manatee are pure ivory. They're known as bone ivory, not elephant ivory, which grows through accretion. So that begins one part of the story, and it evolves from there. Wow. But it's all laid on the backdrop of these waters that I am intimately familiar with. I spent, like I said earlier, thousands of days and nights patrolling them. I write about the commercial fishing industry too. I have some fictional fish camps there that I create from all the working fish camps I used to visit. I used to have 33 in my area. There aren't very many now, but there's a history and culture to a fish camp. And so there's a commonality to it. So I try to create that in one particular fish camp I write about. But there's a lot of action for the last half of that book. And I actually, for one there were several chapters involve a helicopter. And one of our guys, his name was Lance Ham. He flew for us, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, but he was also a decorated Vietnam gunfighter helicopter pilot. So I went to him to make sure I had everything right about how a helicopter flies and so forth. So even though it's fiction, I try to do my homework to get the facts right. And,
perfect.
And listen, CJ Box does the same thing. Okay. He's telling these environmental stories. He's interviewing game wardens. I mean, he's getting his facts right before he writes his fictional stories about Joe Pickett. And I think it just makes it that much more. So I'll end my pitch with this. About a week ago, I got an email from the Tampa Bay Historical Society Book Club. They have picked Bones and Water to be their book of the month in May. Good, okay, they're 200 miles. They are 200 miles from me. So it's curious that, okay, this is an historical society book club, but yet they chose Bones and Water. Now they know me from my previous books, right? But still, I think they see enough fact and history and culture of this river that it kind of makes it seem real, right? And I think that's what every fiction author strives for.
Yes.
And if you look at the reviews so far, it's 4.9 out of 5. So I'm happy about that. That could change, but I'm just saying,
We've got some excited people in the chat. Told them we're going to do a giveaway on that book. We're going to give it away to somebody listening tonight, and lots of positive. Some Metal Shark sounds like a fun read. I mean, it's got some fans out there. So what we're going to do is,
I was going to say, guys, I mean, you figure out who it is. You let me know. Give me the address. I'll sign it, and I'll mail it out to them.
Oh, that's nice of you.
Autograph copy. You're
you got to, you just can't mail them a book. I mean, so
you got to mail them that book in that cathedral pickle bottle.
No.
Ken said that. Bob didn't say that. Ken said that.
No, I know.
I talk crap.
I'm in love with that. That's one of the.
I bet.
I'm in love with that bottle. I mean, it was. Listen, guys, it's a one-off. It was just like.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like finding that pot of gold.
Right, like the clouds opened up and they dropped that right in your hand. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, kinda. With
Tony, let's do that, man. Let's get that giveaway going.
And let's keep it to the lower 48, so we can kind of hang a little bit on shipping there. But if you guys are interested in entering the giveaway for the book, why don't you go ahead and in the chat right now type in #bones. Bones in Water. Just put in #bones. We'll start collecting some entries, and then we'll run the drawing.
Yep. If you're listening, you're lurking, pop on in the chat and just type in #bones. All one word, no spaces. You can enter multiple times, but the picker we use will eliminate duplicates. So
I'm going to throw #bones in here for myself. Hold on. I didn't know it was going to be autographed. I mean, my gosh.
Well, sure.
Yeah, that's awesome, Bob. Yeah, we did get a request, as a matter of fact. I know we haven't talked about metal detecting too much, but it's been one of those shows, right?
Oh, wait a minute. No. I got something I got to show you in the metal detecting.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let's get through this giveaway, and then we'll get to that. And then we don't
want to forget this, because I need some help on this.
Okay? That's true. Okay. Yeah, you talked about it. We have it on our list.
Yeah.
All right, #bones, everybody. And we did have a request for a quick, good poaching story that you might be able to tell us also. So we'll get to that after this giveaway.
I don't know if there's any quick good. I've got a lot of poaching stories, but I don't think I can put it into a soundbite. But I'm going to tell you this.
Okay.
In the 3rd chapter of my book, I write about what was a defining moment in my career as a river patrol officer. So it's midnight in the Ocklawaha River, which would make the perfect backdrop for a Tarzan or a Jurassic Park movie. There's nobody there. Nobody lives on it. There are thousands of alligators up to 13 feet and 800 pounds. My patrol boat sinks, and I am left floating out through a gauntlet of alligators on a 6-gallon gas can at midnight.
You're kidding me.
And nobody knows where I am at. And that's chapter 3 in Backcountry Lawman.
And you start thinking about that too. My gosh, no one knows where I'm at.
After an hour, you don't splash when you're in a river. You're surrounded by alligators. So I was like a big green sea turtle, very slowly, very quietly doing a kind of a modified breaststroke.
Gosh.
But after about an hour, and this is dark of the moon, all my lights are back with my boat. There's a whole story to that. And then I hear an enormous splash in front of me. I can't see it, but it's a bull alligator that flushed off the bank, probably easily 12 to 13 feet. And shortly, the waves wash over me. Now, the waves are only like maybe 10 or 12 inches, but I was on top of a metal gas can, and I can remember to this day, there's a metal chain that hung down from the gas cap. And when I was being rocked by those waves, I can still remember that chain going ting, ting, ting,
my gosh.
against the side of that metal gas can.
Oh.
And it was at that point in my 24-year-old life that Bob Lee told himself this was not his wisest course of action to float out of this. Well, I won't use any expert as this dang river. Because this is the real deal. Okay. And I'm in a radio dead zone. I've been up there drifting for 3 hours looking for poachers, and there's a series of events that led to the boat sinking, and we don't have time for that now, but trust me, it happened, and that was a defining moment in my career. So
I'm not going to ask you how it turned out because I want people to check out your book. But did
did
anything brush against you? Did you have any brushes against you?
No, I didn't have anything brushing against me, but you have to stay away from the banks because there's wax myrtles with these stinging hornets. They got hornet nests. You got to watch out for the water moccasin. I mean, this is Indiana Jones territory we're entering here. Okay. So
I'm not going,
but I'm not exaggerating. I mean, it was old bleep happens, I mean, it begins with S, ends with T. So,
all right, Tony, let's pull that trigger. #Bones. This is your last chance to get it into the chat. Looks like everyone has had a good run at it right there.
Yep. We have 14 entries.
That's
hoping to get some more, good. But all right, here we go. Let's draw this for an autographed copy of Bones in Water from Bob Lee. Let's go.
All right, here we go. It's rolling. Good luck, everyone.
This is kind of cool that you can do that.
Yeah, it just randomly picks it.
I've not seen that before.
Oh,
hey,
wow, really?
Metal
J-Man, Metal Sharks. Good job, J-Man.
All right.
Congratulations. Yeah,
Congrats.
that's awesome, man.
Congrats, Metal Sharks. Awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys will give me his address later. Is that how it's going to work?
That is exactly how it's going to work.
Okay.
J-Man, get a hold of me at dk@adventuresindirt.com and send me your contact info. I might already have it, but go ahead and send it just in case I don't. And we'll get it over to Bob, and we'll get you a book, autographed copy of Bones in Water.
That's awesome.
Very generous of you there, Bob. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
That's a great story. Oh my God. Let's go. We're getting right to the metal detector right now.
Okay, you ready?
How long you been metal detecting? About as long as you've been bottle digging?
Yeah, well, I started I metal detected 6 months before I got into the bottle, so we'll say 4 years. I really haven't been at this long. About, I guess 4, maybe 4 years, a little bit more. Here we go.
Yeah. All right, so this is one of your most interesting finds. Let's put them up there.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get, and I've got a light here. Let me see if I can.
Oh,
so
all right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna tell you what I found out so far, and I want to know if anybody else has seen something like this. I'm gonna bring it back. This is 2/3 of a cast iron plaque of Robert E. Lee.
Hmm.
The entire plaque, it's broken off here. So it would have kind of come like this and down and around.
Yeah.
And there would have been a hole right here to put a nail through so it would hang on a wall. I've only seen one of these went for sale back around 2016, 2015. It was kind of painted. It's supposed to be from around, this is post-Civil War, from around 1900. And I suspect it was sold as a souvenir at a battlefield site somewhere, or a store, a merch store. But I'm curious to know if anybody else has ever seen the plaque, found a plaque like it, or if they, if they know any more about it, because there's really not a whole lot of information except that it was poured in it was cast in what they call a sand mold. But
yeah,
sure.
That's all I know.
I saw a picture. I just looked it up real quick. I see a picture of a cast iron Robert E. Lee wall plaque, and it's got the same flare above his head to the side there, that we're going to flare off like this,
right?
Like this.
Right.
But it's a straight, the one I'm looking at is a straight on image of his face. It's not 3D looking off to the side like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
It's probably the same plaque. You just can't get the three-dimensional effect on it. But I can tell you that I went back and I metal detected that area. Now, this old cabin site was in an old peanut field, so it had been plowed hundreds of times, right? And undoubtedly the plow or the harrow had hit it probably. And I could not find any more pieces of it. But now it was completely coated in rust when I found it, and I de-rusted it and went through the whole process. And so anyway, I don't know. I just think that's kind of.
Anybody out there in the chat ever find anything like that? I know we've had people find stuff of Robert E. Lee, adornments and different things, because people adored him. You know what I mean? Like they really did
absolutely
love that man. And so they would have different things with his face and his likeness on it. And I hear about it all the time, but that is such a cool, man. When that came up, you had to go, what is this? But it's,
right.
Yeah.
If my first thought was it was so rusted, I thought it might be Stonewall Jackson.
Oh.
But then when I looked at it more and more, and I thought, nah, they're going to do it over general. And then I started cleaning it. There it is right there.
Yeah,
that's it.
There you go.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Now they're saying this is 1860s. Let me look at what I got here. See if that's the same. That's going to be the same. That's the same thing. That's the same plaque.
Yeah.
My other research told me that it was more from the 1900s. I would love for it to be from the 1860s.
Yeah.
But I suspect that it's post-Civil War, and it was sold as a souvenir on one of the battlefields. That's my guess, but I just was curious if anybody had any hard information on it, So I don't know if you have anybody from Virginia watching or.
Usually we do. Like we got some good friends in Virginia for sure. Matt Howell, if you're watching this later, if you know anything about this, get a hold of me. We'll pass that along to Bob.
Hey, that'd be great. I appreciate that.
So, hey, Bob, I found this one. This was another one. This was
there you go.
And this says circa 1900.
Yeah, there. I think that's about right. Yeah.
So, and it's from an estate collection from Richmond, Virginia. But
that's cool. I had not seen that one before.
Just some additional information just from initial searching.
Good.
Yeah,
interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, and it also tells you automatically what the sympathies were of the people who lived in that cabin. And for all you know, for all I know, it might have been a Civil War veteran that lived there.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Because we're talking the cabin. I date this cabin from early 1890s to 1925, and I think it burnt after that, from what I can tell.
Wow.
We were digging in England one time, Tony and I, and Tony found this head about that big. It was like this head, this face. It was three-dimensional, it was complete around, but it was kind of squished and flat. We didn't know what it was like. But when you find something like that, you're like, oh my gosh, like, why would this have a likeness of this person? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's got to be something of importance.
It's ceramic, or was it metal?
No, it was metal.
No, it was actually copper.
And
I
what
can't
was it?
remember. I can't remember which leader they had said that it was, but it was, I think, mid 1800s. But it was just a very unique piece because it was like a 3-dimensional head.
Really?
What'd they
Just
say?
very,
Cane
very
top?
unique
Did they
piece.
say cane top? Maybe.
Oh,
You know,
I
that's
see.
that's a good. That could
I mean, you
could
guys,
be it.
you got to keep it, right? Or you didn't have to? Did you have
Yeah.
to turn it in? Okay.
Yeah, I submitted it. Yeah, we got to submit all the fines in, but I was able to get it back about 9 months later or something.
I kind of think that that's a good way to do things, and I think you take here on these rivers. Well, you take the rivers, for instance. They've shut them down, man. I mean, you can't
hunt them at all, huh?
not for arrowheads, not for
Yeah.
Civil War artifacts.
Interesting.
Because we have a lot
Now,
of patrol. Go ahead.
Would historical societies, are they able to get in and kind of do that kind of stuff as organized type events rather
No.
than just nothing like that, huh?
No, the state
Not interested in it.
The professional archaeologists,
Yeah.
the amateurs, you know how that is. I mean, I think you know that.
Yeah.
And so there's always that. I mean, gosh, my dad was a big arrowhead hunter, and I found hundreds of arrowheads in the Tampa Bay area growing up with him. We found so many that finally, by the time I turned 14 or 15, I said, Dad, I got to, this is every weekend, So when somebody says, I've got a place in Alabama, I could go thousands of acres and it's got arrowheads all over it. And the guy says, I can go up there anytime. I said, listen, I got, if you got bottles, I'll go. But I mean, I know that you might have some people listening that find that hard to believe, but I found a lot of arrowheads, and I inherited my dad's collections. So
is it the history story side of it that draws you in, or is it the relic side of it?
It's now that I'm so deep into the history, it's kind of that duality. It's both. Right. I like to learn the history of it. I think we'll take that plaque, for instance. Well, what is it?
Right.
I mean, what was it made for? And so or the torpedo or the snuff board or the cathedral pickle. What's the history, the purpose?
What's the story of it?
Yeah, they all got a story. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And so now some of my programs, they'll have, there's one historical society up in Palaca. They have a big genealogical historical thing, and everybody takes whatever they collect and they display it. Well, I'll set up a huge bottle display. I got old lanterns I've collected, some of them off the river here. And so I even put lights in them, and I'll have them labeled, and they come by and we'll just geek out on bottles. I mean, I'll talk bottles for or lanterns or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of really neat lanterns I got while I was on the job. I was able to purchase them from different people I had met. And they're really very collectible. So
yeah. Listen, Bob, you've been an amazing guest, man. I knew you would. Loved your stories, love your energy. You make us all excited to go dig some bottles. Numerous.
And I still got one bulb left in my lamp. It was a 2-bulb lamp. I've got one left, but that's okay. I have everything. I got everything. I'm trying to get more light on me in here, right? So that's what happened. I got this thing that's right off to my left. Well, listen, I've enjoyed it, and I congratulate you all on your success. You've got a ton of subscribers, and I subscribed earlier, by the way. So
yeah, I
congratulate you, because there's a lot of work to putting together a podcast and keeping it going.
Right.
My son's got one for the line of work he's in. He's in landscaping, and I think they're a year into it, but they got to grind it out. I mean, I know you guys enjoy it, but I mean, it's work. A lot to line it.
It's
up.
work, but you get the reward of talking to people that have the same passion. You're in Florida, we're in Colorado. We'll talk to somebody in Arizona or North Dakota or over in England, and we all have that same passion. And we can all connect, even though we're thousands of miles away. And it's just the stories and the passion that comes out that just makes it so incredible.
Yeah.
And and that other link we are going to talk about for the bottle, where my buddy and I buy our bottle probes.
Yeah.
Those old West bottles. I think you're going to have that link for platform, and I imagine a lot of your listeners they're aware of them, but they make a really good product. So
yeah, we're always been asked, like, where can you get a good bottle probe?
Yeah.
So it's good to have that link. And for those of you listening on the audio replay, we'll put the link down in the description of the podcast. So, and also with all of Bob's links to his website, to his, where you can find his various books, we'll put all those links down below. So if you want to support him and you've enjoyed the show, make sure you head on over there and check out Bob Lee.
Thanks.
Very interesting guy, man, to talk to, Bob. We really enjoyed it. Why don't you hang out in the green room? We'll finish the show, and maybe we'll say our goodbyes off the air. You okay with that?
That'll be fine.
All right. Last words before we put you down there?
No, I other than I've enjoyed it, and I'm proud to be on your 52, what is it, 5820, or I've lost my cheat sheet. What the heck do you call your guys? 5280 adventures. There you go.
Yeah.
No, I've enjoyed it immensely, and I had a big time, and it's been great. You know, it's always a lot of fun to talk about one's hobby.
We'll have to definitely have you on again. I have a feeling
no problem.
We've
more
got a bunch of stories.
All right. Hey, Bob, hang on for us. We'll be right back.
Yes, I will.
To you. Okay. Wow. Quite a show.
Incredible. Having the connection, obviously law enforcement, we Bob and I could talk stories.
I'm sure.
I know that. But then having the connection with bottles and metal detecting and history, and I was watching his Relic Rescue USA YouTube channel, and I think we touched on it. It's not only just metal detecting, bottle digging, but the historical, the homes that he does tours of, the stories that he tells. I mean, he takes you on the adventures of the books that he's written. He says, "Hey, this is chapter 1. It takes place on this side of St. John's River, right here on this spot right here." And he really draws you in. And I tell you, I have Amazon pulled up right now. I've got all 3 books in my cart. I'm going to be buying all 3 of them. Because he brings up the game warden side of it, the law enforcement, the excitement, all of that kind of. I can't wait to read them. It's going to be incredible. What a guy, man!
We can talk about the game warden aspect all night. It'd be a whole show. Maybe a couple shows.
Be a blast.
He's got a lot to share there, and we talked a lot tonight about bottles, and that always fascinates me. We've had a few bottle diggers on here, but it's always fascinating to see how each person approaches it. But they all share that passion where they're like,
the same passion.
For him to hold up that cardinal bottle was like, oh my gosh, look at that
cathedral. I pulled it up real quick.
Yeah.
Again, I learned something about it. I've never heard of that, but I pulled it up, and all of a sudden now I've got knowledge. I've got, I'm looking at different colors, and now I'm going to go down that rabbit hole because he found that. So
we do it all the time, right? I found that cap from the 1876, expedition in Philly. And I never knew about that ever until I found that stupid cap, and now I've learned how many people were there, what that cap was, who made it, what other kinds of things. Like first time we saw bananas was at that expo, we didn't even have bananas in the United States until then, and all kinds of stuff. So love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Want to say congrats to Metal Sharks for winning the book.
Yeah.
And Bob will autograph that, get it sent over to you. We appreciate the support and having Bob on tonight too.
Yeah. Make sure you reach out to me there, J-Man, and DK at adventuresindirt.com. We'll get that right out to you. Excellent, man. Good show.
Awesome show.
Awesome show.
Yep. All right.
What do you got going on? Anything?
No, I'm slacking on Are You Smarter Than a Relic Hunter? Just because we're doing all this renovation in the house and it's taking up weekends like crazy. So I'm going to get back to it for sure. I've planned for 2 shows, so I have 2 shows worth of questions. I just haven't put the pen to paper and got online with it yet. So we'll come back here in a couple weeks probably, and want you guys to join me Sunday nights on 5280 Adventures for Are You Smarter Than a Relic Hunter? And see if you guys can beat, the questions. So that's about all I got, man.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. Well, let's get down to Bob, and everyone take care. Have yourself a great week. If you get out there and dig and go find the good stuff, make sure you tell us all about it right here at Relics Radio. You can get a hold of Tony over at 5280 Adventures. You can get a hold of me over at Adventures in Dirt. But good luck to you. Stay safe. and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to Relics Radio. We will see you back here next week for another exciting guest. Until then, get out and dig it all.